Hello and welcome to episode 9 of Christian's Political Talks. I am your host, Christian, and today our special guest is an allied healthcare practitioner and has a Bachelor of Health Science from the Western Sydney University. Now she is the Informed Medical Options Party candidate for the House of Representatives seat for Lindsay in the 2022 federal election, Miss Rebekah Ray. How are you doing today?
Hello, Christian. Thank you for having me on your podcast. It's a pleasure to be here.
No worries. So why don't we start off with you telling us a bit about yourself?
Okay, well, I was born and raised in Penrith. I live, work and run a small business in Penrith. I'm a true Penrith local. Healthcare and wellbeing has always been a big part of my upbringing. My dad studied naturopathy and osteopathy and worked in Hopewood. At that time in Australia, it was the main health retreat that you could go to. My mum was a nurse and a midwife and later studied massage therapy. And around 1987, they established their first healthcare clinic in Penrith. And I found that it was really rewarding being in regular contact with people within the community and seeing their health improve. So I've always had an interest in health and lifestyle, well-being, people, small business, relationships, community. We were also very in touch with the environment as well. We had lots of animals. We had dogs and cats and chickens, and we grew our own fruit and vegetables. We had a very healthy lifestyle. We ate very healthily. We really embraced this kind of healthy living, healthy lifestyle type thing. And even at a young age, actually, we were quite interested in politics. So that's influenced the way that I think today. So the first protest that I went to, I was probably actually 8, and it was actually for the Badgerys Creek Airport. So even at that age, we were proactively advocating.
Yeah, well, the Badgerys Creek Airport, it's always been a problem here. It's been a lot of people haven't liked the idea, and then, well, now we have Western Sydney Airport being built. So I think there's still a lot of people that are very against it.
Yes, there's a lot of concerns because what happens is a lot of the pollution comes in from the city. And because the Blue Mountains rise, it gets trapped in Penrith, and then it kind of makes it having Western Sydney with the airport there and having it the industrial hub, it creates it into a bit of an industrial wasteland. So there's going to be potentially a lot of pollution around. There could have been more viable options. For example, Newcastle, they were really wanting the airport. They already have a big established Air Force base there. They were contemplating removing their Air Force base. And then we could have had high-speed rail to there as well. And the infrastructure was already set up, and it wouldn't have had the same environmental impacts that this airport is going to have now. But I appreciate that it's there and it's being built, and we'll just have to deal with the impacts of it one way or another.
So why did you join the Informed Medical Options Party?
Okay, well, in 2015, the government released No Jab, No Pay, which was actually an initiative rolled out by Scott Morrison. And even at that time, I went to the protests over the No Jab, No Pay, and I saw Michael O'Neill, who is the Informed Medical Options Party founder, speak at these protests back then. So I've been watching the Informed Medical Options Party for a long time, and I feel they're a very ethical grassroots party by the people, for the people. Everyone who works there, they are unpaid volunteers, and all the candidates are self-funded, which I think speaks volumes in regards to how passionate they are.
So you have to pay for the campaigning yourself?
100%. So what will happen is, if in previous elections, if the candidates have gotten 4% and over, they get around $3 for each vote. But because the major parties are the ones that only tend to ever make it over the 4% mark, it disadvantages minor parties and independents.
Yes, so how did you end up becoming the Informed Medical Options Party candidate for Lindsay?
Yes, well, actually, I decided to take a stand because I felt that the government was and is out of touch with the needs of the people. In the last 2 years, we've witnessed the government's response to the 2020 bushfires, which has still not resolved, the lockdown mandates, and the more recent response or lack thereof to the Northern Rivers flooding. And so I felt very impassioned to take a stand and do something about this. I feel the government is very much out of touch with the needs of the people.
So you, yes, because you live in the seat of Lindsay, don't you?
I do live in the seat of Lindsay, yes.
Yes. Yes, so, well, you would know what the civilians of Lindsay, that's how I'll put it. So you know what they want, I suppose, because you probably see a lot of Lindsay civilians being a local health practitioner. So
yes, well, I feel very lucky because I think it's a privilege to be enabled and allowed to work on the healthcare of people. And in those moments, people do confide in you, and they tell you a lot about their concerns, what's going on in their life, what they hope for. They will talk quite a bit about politics. And so I do hear a lot of different concerns being raised on a regular basis. Now that I'm running as a federal candidate, I'm doing a lot of meet and greets within the community. I'm also having a lot of people contact me. I'm completing a lot of surveys. And so I'm getting an even broader spectrum of concerns within the community. I also worked in unemployment services when I first left school. When I left school, I studied a business diploma, and then I went and worked in unemployment services. And so I've had exposure to people within from low socioeconomic backgrounds who are struggling within the community. So I'm conscientious of different socioeconomic problems that are prevalent within the area as well.
So what would be your main policies you would help legislate into the federal government if you got the seat of Lindsay?
Yes, well, I think a lot of people are concerned that they're tired of broken election promises followed by a broken and corrupt government. And I think I'm tired of this as well. And a lot of people are voicing concerns in regards to the federal ICAC. And so one of the first things that I'd be pushing for is an independent, apolitical federal ICAC to reveal corruption and to hold those involved accountable according to the law. Part of our constitution is that nobody is above the law. And it was a 2019 election promise by the Liberals to create a federal ICAC. But this hasn't come to fruition. And I appreciate that there is a document of some kind, but nothing much further has occurred. And Liberal are blaming Labor, and Labor are putting it back on the Liberals. But a lot of people suspect that there's corruption right throughout government. So you can't have a suspected corrupt organization or body investigating itself because it's in their interest to cover up that corruption, lest they be found to be complicit. So that's why a federal ICAC has to be independent and apolitical.
So why should Lindsay vote number one for the Informed Medical Options Party instead of the other 6 candidates in the area?
Okay, well, there's a lot more other policies that I want to run through, and there's a lot of reasons. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons why they should vote for myself. After having an independent federal ICAC to spring clean the government, I think it's important that it be followed by a royal commission into the government's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. And I feel this is necessary to prevent continuous lockdowns to our country. 2 weeks to flatten the curve has turned into 2 years, and it's resulted in fast rising inflation, $1.3 trillion of debt, destruction of small business, and a crisis in education, healthcare, aged care, and mental health care. And so we want to have truth and transparency. We're not here to argue, were the lockdowns right? Were they not? Because we don't have the statistics, we don't have the figures, and we don't have the evidence. But we need to uncover, were they right or were they wrong? Because many people are hurting as a result of them. And so they deserve to know. And if they were wrong, then there needs to be accountability within government, which is what we're pushing for, is truth, transparency, and accountability within government. So that would be the next thing that I would do. After that, I would look at protecting the Australian dream of home ownership by limiting foreign ownership of land, which is pricing locals out of the property market. No major party really adequately addresses this problem, and we want to address this. So we want to further limit foreign ownership of business land and water and key assets to protect the interests of local Australian people. In addition to this, we also want to create a socially inclusive society without putting others at risk. So we want to protect your children, daughters, and wives by ensuring that certain woke ideologies and political correctness does not hijack common sense, safety, and logic. We're also going to invest in safe, economical, and environmentally sound energy production in Australia, creating industry and jobs for Australians. And so if you support me, you will get someone who listens, collaborates, and advocates on behalf of the needs of the community with sensible, logical, and practical solutions. So if you want someone with common sense and logic within government, vote one IMOP Rebekah Ray, your advocating voice.
Yes, so that's why, so that's pretty much why you think that Lindsay should vote for you, because, well, your policies that you would implement if you did get into Parliament?
Yeah, well, not only that, I think also too, because I'm transparent and I'm accessible. I'm willing to listen to the people. I'm willing to collaborate with them, and people from the community have lost their voice. People are not really involved in the political spectrum. Politicians are often out of reach. People will write to politicians and they will often just get the stock standard answer back. I would be very happy to re-implement town halls where, as a community, people can come and ask questions, and that the work that I'm doing within government, that people would know what I'm doing within government. They would see progress happening. I mean, each and every election, we're seeing the same problems get highlighted. And the government says, oh, yeah, we'll resolve that, we'll resolve it. But then the next election comes and clearly it hasn't been resolved. So rather than having career politicians, we need real people with real lives who have real practical understanding of what life is. I mean, I've worked in corporate, I've worked in multiple industries. I run a small business. I'm in touch with the local community. I've also lived and worked overseas in different cultures. I speak different languages. I'm very politically involved. I have a wide understanding of political issues right across the spectrum. I think what the government needs is fresh, real faces from people, real people from the community. I think I have the potential to create great change within government and to represent the needs of the Penrith people.
So how is campaigning for you going so far?
Well, to be honest, it's a very big job when you're a political party. So say, for example, the Liberal Party, Melissa McIntosh, she got about 45,000 votes in her last one. So she would have somewhere around 110, 120,000 for her political campaign from taxpayers' dollars from that system we spoke of earlier. Whereas people who are minor parties, they're fully self-funded, and the money that the major parties have, Liberal, Labor and Greens, that money is used to pay for campaign managers, administrators, marketing managers. So they've got and to also pay for volunteers as well and for marketing material. So they have a lot of support. But as a minor party and an independent, you're numero uno. You're the number one person, and we have a very supportive and encouraging party. But really, we have to look for people to volunteer to support us. And our volunteers are very passionate and they are very enthusiastic because they're not paid. No one within the party is paid. And so we put in a lot of time and effort. And because it's fully from my savings, all the money that I put in, it's fully from my savings. And I've stopped working so that I can focus on this full time and listen and be available and to advocate and campaign. I think it does show how passionate I am about the issues that are occurring in government.
Yes. So, well, at the moment, as we're recording this, there's only 17 days left until the federal election. So you've still got, well, what, about half a month left of campaigning until the actual day?
Well, yes, it's interesting that you say that. Early voting actually commences on Monday the 9th. And so I'm going to be at the early voting centres so that I can be available to the people who are coming in. The days are quite long. I'm going to, in the evenings after that, try to continue campaigning late into the evening. But I'm going to give it my all. People are volunteering, and if people want to volunteer and support me, please get in contact with me. You can go to the IMOP website and find my contact details there. I would really appreciate any support. It is a big job, but I've got a lot of experience. I'm hardworking, I'm devoted to the community, and I genuinely care about the health and well-being of my community, and that's why I'm taking a stand.
So, do you have anything to say to the other 6 candidates running for the seat of Lindsay?
Yes, I think they're all fantastic individuals. I don't know if I agree with all of their policies, but I think that they're genuine, nice people, and so I wish them the best of luck.
That's the thing with policies as well, because I have a couple of friends where, outside of politics, we're really close. We have a lot of similarities, but in politics, we can be the complete opposite. So, and that's just the funny thing about policies. Like, you could be Labor and you could have a friend in the Liberal Party, and even though Labor and Liberal fight constantly, you guys, outside of politics, you could be best friends. So it's a funny thing that somehow that can happen in some cases.
They always say when it comes to social environments, never talk about money, politics, and religion. They can end up being rather personal topics.
Yes, I have come to find that out as growing up. I'm only 20, so I'm still relatively young in some people's eyes. But yes, the main 2 that I have found is, yes, religion and politics. But yes, so, well, the next question was if anyone's listening, if they want to help you out for election day or pre-poll, how do they go to volunteer? But you can say it again if you want, but I think you've already said it.
Yes, go to the IMOP website, type in Informed Medical Options Party into Google. You can get my details off of the website and volunteer. We need all the volunteers and hands on deck that we can get. If you have any questions or concerns about things happening within the community, or you'd like to ask questions about my policies, please email and contact me. I'm more than willing to respond to you. Please forgive me as it comes up to pre-polling. I might, to the early voting, I may not be able to get back to you for a couple of days. That's just because the days are very long, but I'll endeavour to get back to you as soon as possible. There are some people who've contacted me about concerns and issues, and I've already said to them, look, if I get into Parliament, we'll organise a sit-down meeting and we'll organise relevant stakeholders and bodies, and we'll look for proactive, collaborative solutions to problems that are occurring. And we'll look for practical, solutions, and we'll create real change within the community.
So, well, I was looking up your colleagues at the Informed Medical Options Party, and you guys only have a couple. You don't have enough House of Representative candidates to actually form a majority government. So, which other party would you prefer formed a majority government? Would it be Labor or Liberal or another party?
Now you're going to have to forgive me because the video was just breaking up a little bit. Can you say that question one more time? Yeah, no, you're right.
No worries. So obviously the Informed Medical Options Party doesn't have enough candidates to fill. If they won all the seats they're in, they wouldn't have enough to form a majority government. So which other party would you prefer formed a majority government? Would it be Labor or Liberal, or an entirely different party altogether?
Well, we actually want a hung parliament. We don't want any party to have the majority. And so we want the crossbench to be made up with minor parties and independents. And that's the best way to ensure that the current government is being held accountable. A lot of people within Liberal and Labor, they're deeply concerned, the politicians, in regards to a hung parliament. But from our perspective, it will actually be a very beneficial thing, because we're going to ensure that there's more transparency and accountability within government. And it will also mean that any legislation that's potentially harmful to Australian citizens and their way of life, that it can be identified, and that there can be more opposition to that and stop that from getting in. And I think specifically of the Identify and Disrupt bill that went in 2021, which actually allows for greater surveillance over the Australian people, and also the New South Wales Identify and Disrupt bill that went in actually under a majority of the Labor government in less than 24 hours, and actually threatens Australians' political rights to participation and political activities and freedom of assembly as well. So we want to ensure that human and democratic rights are protected. And we're going to be doing this also by implementing a Bill of Rights. We're the only liberal democracy in all the Western nations that doesn't have a Bill of Rights or some form of human rights charter.
Well, that's interesting you mentioned that, because last episode with who I had, Joseph O'Connor, who is the United Australia Party candidate for the same seat, Lindsay, he also mentioned how he wants a Bill of Rights introduced into the Australian government too.
Yes, from my understanding, Liberal Democrats, the United Australia Party, the Informed Medical Options Party, possibly One Nation Party as well, I'm not sure, but I know that there's quite a few minor parties at the moment that are pushing for a Bill of Rights to be put in, and that's to ensure that we can protect the human and democratic rights of Australian citizens. So it's something that a lot of minor parties feel very strongly about.
So do you have any other comments you would like to say? Anything you want to shout out, or?
I'm just looking to see if there's anything else that I want to put in addition to that. I think those are the main things that I want to say. Yes, if anyone wants additional information, or if they'd like to volunteer or to contribute or want more information, yes, please look up the Informed Medical Options Party website and contact me on there, and I'll be more than happy to get back to you.
So yeah, so that's it. You don't have anything else to say?
Is there anything in particular that you're thinking? I think I've covered quite a bit about my background, why I joined the Informed Medical Options Party, my main parties, which is the Independent Federal ICAC, to spring clean the government, Royal Commission into the government's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic, implementing a Bill of Rights, limiting foreign ownership of land so that locals aren't priced out of the market, because we want to maintain the dream of home ownership. We also want to invest in safe, economical, environmentally sound energy production in Australia, which will create new industry and jobs for Australians. We do have other policies. I mean, I can go in depth into them if you like, but those are the key ones that we're looking at the moment.
Well, just, yeah, it's your episode, so if those are the main policies that you really want to focus on, not necessarily the party, but more so your policies that you would focus on, yeah, so if that's everything, like, I want to make sure that you've put everything out and that, there's nothing else, everything's all good.
No, I'm going to be on my own social media or Facebook and on Instagram. I'm going to be continuing to put out content on there and doing videos as well. So I'll be also talking about different topics that I have political interests and concerns over, and topics that people from the community have approached me on. I have started doing human interest stories as well. I haven't had the time to put all of them up, but I'm going to continue to do that. I've got a meet and greet this Friday at Maldini's at Nepean River that starts at 10 a.m. So if anyone would like to come down and talk to me, they're more than welcome. And we're going to be continuing to do more things as well. We're also looking at doing a candidate panel as well on Friday. And then tomorrow I'm going to be attending the Sweltering Cities candidate panel in regards to heating problems within Penrith.
Yes, so to people listening, as soon as this episode premieres, so it premieres on Thursday at 5 p.m, so that Sweltering Cities event will be in about an hour from the time this episode airs. So
yes, move quickly.
Yes. Yeah, so make sure you get the fast train. All right, so that's everything. Thanks for joining us today, Rebekah.
Oh, it was my pleasure, Christian. Thank you for having me.
No worries. So you can follow her on Facebook at Rebekah Ray IMOP candidate for Lindsay, and on Instagram at Rebekah Ray IMOP. You can follow me on Facebook at Christians Political Talks, and the same on Instagram at Christians Political Talks. Further details will be in the description of this episode. Special thanks to everyone who tuned in to listen to today's episode, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.